For as long as humankind has been around, people have always predicted the end of days. These are the top 10 most popular Doomsday predictions. Number 10. The Seekers, December 24th, 1955. In December 1954, a headline in the Chicago Tribune read, "Doctor warns of disaster in the world Tuesday. Worst to come in 1955, he declares." The doctor, Charles Lafayette, was followed by Dorothy Martins, a 54-year-old housewife from Oak Park, Illinois. Martin believed that aliens from the planet Clarion had beamed down messages informing her that a massive flood would soon destroy the planet. Her wild prophecies attracted a small group of followers, known as the Seekers, many of whom had quit their jobs and sold their belongings in anticipation of the end. They gathered at Martin's home on Christmas Eve, 1955, singing Christmas carols while they waited to be saved by the aliens in their flying saucers. As the night wore on, Martin's followers became increasingly impatient. Finally, at 4:45 a.m. on Christmas Day, Martin announced that God had been so impressed by their actions that he'd no longer destroy the earth. Lucky us. Number 9. Mayan Calendar, 2012. The 2009 movie 2012 is a 158-minute showcase of apocalyptic eye candy, with enough death and destruction to bring up the question, what's so bad about 2012? It depends on who you ask. The fear is based on the way some people interpret the Mayan long count calendar, which is divided into the great cycles of lasting approximately 5,125 years. One of these cycles ends on December 21st, 2012, giving some doomsdayers the ammunition they need to declare the impending apocalypse. They also have numerous theories about how exactly the world will end. Some claim that a mysterious planet known as Nibiru, Planet X, or Eris, or a large meteor will collide with Earth. Another popular theory is that Earth's magnetic poles will reverse, causing the planet's rotation to reverse as well. You know, the magnetic poles do reverse every so often, and one of those is due, but they don't believe it's actually going to end up causing any kind of general chaos on the planet. Number 8. Harold Camping, May 21st, 2011. The Bible is pretty clear about doomsday prophecies, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Reads Mark 13:32. But that hasn't stopped some believers from trying to make predictions anyway. One of such men is Harold Camping, a retired engineer who believes that the Bible is a numeric code book that can be deciphered to reveal clues about the end of times. Camping, the founder of the independent ministry family, Radio International, first predicted that the world would end in September 1994. But when the apocalypse failed to materialize, he attributed the error to incomplete research. Camping recently gained additional attention for his latest doomsday prediction, May 21st, 2011, you might remember. In an interview with New York Times on May 11th, 2011, the 89-year-old was brimming with confidence, saying, "God has given so much information in the Bible about this, and so many proofs, and so many signs, that we know it's absolutely going to happen without a question at all." Camping was so certain that his ministry spent millions of dollars plastering the Judgment Day message on more than 5,000 billboards and 20 recreational vehicles as a warning to the general public. When May 21st came and went without interruption, Camping did what any good doomsdayer would. He blamed the mistake on a mathematical error and moved the date back to October 21st, which again did not happen. Number 7. William Miller, 1843 to 1844. William Miller and Millerites may sound like a good name for a 1960s pop act, but in the 1840s they were a fairly successful Doomsday cult. That is, if you measure success by the number of followers, not the eventual occurrence of the predicted apocalypse. Miller was a product of the Second Great Awakening, a period of intense religious revival from which several modern denominations were born, including the Mormons and the Seventh-day Adventists. A farmer-turned-preacher, Miller crested his wave of spiritual fervor with his prediction that Jesus would return to Earth in March 1843. He derived his prophecy from a complex system of mathematical calculations and promoted it by giving sermons and passing out pamphlets during the 1830s and early 1840s. Scholars estimated of some 1 million people who heard his message, about 100,000 actually chose to follow him. As March 1843 neared, many of these followers sold all of their possessions, donated white robes, and climbed to the tops of mountains and hills to await their rapture into heaven. When nothing happened, Miller moved the date to October 1844, which also proved to be a bust, leading some to label the non-event the Great Disappointment. Halleys Comet, May 1910. A unique astronomical event is a surefire way to inspire a doomsday prophecy. Enter Halleys Comet, a ball of icy dust that is visible from Earth every 76 years. When this celestial body was scheduled to make a pass in 1910, the claims of impassioned astronomers at Chicago's Yerkes Observatory inspired fear in a surprising number of people. They insisted that the comet's tail was made of poisonous cyanogen gas, and when Earth passed through it on May 18th, the toxic fumes would cause widespread death. Some opportunists tried to profit from the hysteria, selling comet pills, masks, and bottled oxygen, intended to help people survive the noxious Armageddon. Keeping that trend of science fear going, number 5. Large Hadron Collider, 2009 through 2012. To anyone with a particle physics degree, the Large Hadron Collider may seem like a scary piece of advanced machinery. The massive particle accelerator's circular tunnel, located just outside of Geneva, Switzerland, measures 17 miles in total circumference. It can send hydrogen protons crashing into one another nearly at the speed of light, allowing scientists to discover new elements and particles that may shed light on the creation of the universe. That is, if everything goes as planned. Some theorists suggest that the massive energies created during such collisions could potentially form black holes, capable of engulfing the entire planet. These fears came to a head in 2008, when Walter L. Wagner and Louis Sancho filed a lawsuit in U.S. courts to stop the LHC from beginning its operation until scientists produce a safety report and environmental assessment. While most scholars acknowledge the possibility of black holes, they dismiss the danger, insisting that any such anomaly would only last a matter of seconds. Hardly long enough to swallow the Earth, despite the controversy. Number 4. Shoko Asahara, 1997 to 2000. Why wait for the apocalypse if you can make it happen yourself? This is the mindset of the Japanese doomsday prophet Shoko Asahara, born Shizu Matsumoto in 1955. Asahara was completely blind in one eye and partially sightless in the other. His rise as a cult leader began after he was arrested in 1982 for selling fake cures for his traditional Chinese hypocrisy business. The would-be prophet was reportedly crushed by the incident, which left him embarrassed and bankrupt. In 1984, Asahara opened a yoga studio, boasting that he had achieved Satori, a Japanese term for enlightenment, and claimed he could levitate. He established the Aum Shinrikyo religion in 1987 a name derived from a sacred Hindu symbol and a Japanese word that translates as supreme truth. He soon gained more than 10,000 followers in Japan and 30,000 to 40,000 in Russia, and even produced several candidates to run in the 1990 Japanese legislative elections. As Asahara's success increased, his behavior became increasingly peculiar. He began encouraging his followers to drink his bathwater and blood, and claimed that he could save them from the apocalypse, which he believed would occur after a poison gas attack sometime between 1997 and 2000. Perhaps in an effort to speed along his process, UMA members boarded 5 trains in March 20th, 1995, releasing toxic sarin into 3 subway lines. The attack killed 12 people and injured another 5,500. Asahara was soon arrested by Japanese authorities and sentenced to death in February 2004. Heaven's Gate, 1997. Another comet one, folks. Marshall Applewhite, with his piercing, wide-eyed stare, looks like a man who was destined to lead a Doomsday sect. He was the leader of Heaven's Gate, a cult founded in Texas during the early 1970s. The group soon moved to the American Southwest, where Applegate began to preach about a spaceship that would spare true believers from the apocalypse and take them to the heavenly level above human. After 2 decades proselytizing in the desert, Heaven's Gate moved to California, where they started a web consulting business called Higher Source to fund their activities. There, they lived in a sprawling Spanish-style house, and reportedly watched episodes of X-Files and Star Trek religiously. Heaven's Gate took a grim turn in 1997, the year that the comet Hale-Bopp shined brightly in the sky. It all started on November 14th, 1996, when Applewhite and his followers were listening to Art Bell's Coast to Coast, a radio show dedicated to UFO topics. During the program, an amateur astronomer called in and claimed to have photographs of a mysterious object hiding in Hale-Bopp's tail. This was all the evidence that Applewhite needed to confirm that spaceship prophecy from the 1970s. He and his group soon began preparation to board the UFO through the execution of mass suicide. When police entered the California compound on March 26, 1997, they found 39 bodies dressed in black tunics with cloth draped over their heads. They had killed themselves with a cocktail of vodka and barbiturates, or by smothering themselves with plastic bags. I really hope that spaceship was waiting for him. Number 2. Y2K 2000. The year 2000 sparked a number of doomsday scares, but none was so prominent than the supposed Y2K computer glitch. The problem with this, when computer codes were first written, dates were abbreviated in 2 digits in order to save memory. For example, 1998 would simply be written as 98. This system worked just fine until 2000, when the date code 00 threatened to cause inaccurate calculations. Some people believe that this glitch would cause apocalyptic consequences. According to these gloomy predictions, at the stroke of midnight on January 1st, 2000, airplanes would drop from the sky. Elevators would plummet from the tops of skyscrapers, and the world economy would come to a screeching halt. In response to these fears, the U.S. government and American corporations spent a total of $108.8 billion on Y2K computer fixes. In the end, nothing fell from the sky, but the world's computers did manage to distribute some credit card terminals in Britain and send out some bills supposedly due in 1900. To the relief of billions, civilization survived almost completely unscathed. Number 1. The sun becomes a red giant 7.6 billion years from now. That's right, not all doomsday prophecies have already come to fruition. Also, not all apocalyptic predictions are steeped in religious fervor or science fiction. some are based solidly upon respected science. Most scholars agree that 7.6 billion years from now, the Sun will enter its red giant phase. When it has converted all of its hydrogen into helium, this will cause the Sun to expand to a size of 20% greater than the Earth's orbit and shine 3,000 times brighter. Once this stage is complete, the Sun will then collapse into a white dwarf. Whether this process will actually destroy the planet is a topic of debate in the scientific community. If Earth were to stay in its current orbit, it would undoubtedly be engulfed and vaporized by the expanding Sun. However, as the Sun swells, it will also lose mass, meaning that Earth will drift further away from it and perhaps escape total destruction. Either way, this process would destroy life as we know it. That is, if there were any life left to destroy by that time. This has been a list of the top 10 Doomsday prophecies. Please like, subscribe, and do whatever you want to do to help this channel continue on. Because you know what? It's not the end of the world. Enjoy your day.